Okay, all the technical stuff is ready anytime you are.
I guess we can start 1 minute early. We're delighted today to have a special feature including Leanne Brown, Bob Rosenthal, Wanda Phipps, excuse me, and JT Kelly. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And to get started, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. He's known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He's the author of 19 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. His poems have appeared in the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, the Hurricane Review, and many others. Also in Best American Poetry, New York Insiders, and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry. Jeff's latest work, a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, is available from Mad Hat Press, and he just recently won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize. In fact, I think his book is out now, yeah? Jeff published his Live Mag also.
Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you. So let me say, what? Pushing your way right in. Oh, I've been looking. I wanted to tell you just one thing, okay? All right. Okay, one thing. Two things. Okay. So what have you been doing, Rufus? Well, I was working on this. I was working on some phantoms from the Huskow in Khartoum, and I was going to dedicate those to Mark because it rhymes like that. Phantom, Khartoum, and plus, you know, he was born in Khartoum. No, he was not born in Khartoum. Wait, I have one more thing to say. You know, I have now invented something really useful and worthwhile. What's that, Rufus? I have invented iCoin. All right. All right, I'll be sure to invest in that. Okay, see you guys. Okay, thank you to Rufus. Thank you for that. That was a good idea. I'm going to invest in that. So I was looking for a title for my poem, and I thought, well, I'll just use this title here that I already used for us today, Metaphoria. My happy dream, ash left on the pillow in dawn's mylar pall, smoke on a mirror, a broken word, a ventriloquist venting. We are made also of our shortcomings. The light farmers carry cappuccinos, checking for alerts from Icarus's sister. Your tentacles tantalize my testicles. A kinky red hair tangles with my shoelace. Transfixed, pouring through the jester's journal. Did I remember to check the mail? Amy says they're called fairy fans. Even the leaves are falling in love. We have no other choice. In the country of handstands, our feet take root in the sky. Okay. Metaphoria. I mess up one line a tiny bit, but. Okay, now it gives me great pleasure to welcome our delightful co-host from Down Under, Cassandra Atherton. Cassandra is an award-winning prose poet and international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens, with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote Prose Poetry, an Introduction, and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. She is commissioning editor for Westerly Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia, and she's been with the Lit Balm for 2 or 3 years. Yay, Cassandra Atherton.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that lovely intro. I'm just going to read, of course, a prose poem because I'm obsessed with prose poems and that's all I write. This one is about a bogey hole in New South Wales, which was created by convicts, like knocking out part of the cliff face. So I'm working on a series of poems. I've been asked to write about that. Waves are thrown on rocks, and I'm Miranda in all her wild blueness. I stand facing the wind as sea foam spots the sky. We're wordless under the slap and patter of water. When you try a new language, salt water rushes into the warm cove of your mouth. We submerge, grazing our buttocks on rocks and broken shells, and you slip your legs around me like a ringed flotation device. In the press of flesh, you rise against me. And I would like to introduce the intrepid Mark Vincennes, who is, join in regulars, an Anglo-Swiss-American poet, a fiction writer, a translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published over 40 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently, here we go, The Pearl Diver of Irunmani, and there's a great interview with Indran if you check that out, talking about The Pearl Diver, which is well worth a view. The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, The Mayfly Codex, Three Telltale Love Signs, Thieves' Canto, and The Visitation, a novelette from Survision. Forthcoming poetry collections are Spells for the Wicked with Unlikely Books, The Brilliant Ironclad with Spite and Dival, and No More Animal Poems, one of my personal favorites, with White Pine Press. Mark is also a prolific translator and has translated from, you know it, German, Romanian, and French. He's published 11 books of translations, most recently An Audible Blue, Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist, you know his name, Klaus Mertz, and it won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature. His own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He's currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. Here we go. He's lived all over the world, from Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in a Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are still more plum curculi, reticulated netwing beetles, and round-headed apple tree borers than bipedal hominids. That was a tongue twister for a freezing cold morning at 7 a.m. Mark. That's just mean.
Well, you know, we need to sense the diversity of the planet. One of the books that Cassandra mentioned is No More Animal Poems, which is coming out with the White Pine Press in 2026, early 2026. And it's about climate change, it's about animal extinction and global warming, of course, and industry. If anyone is interested out there, someone is gathering a bunch of essays about the book. Let me know if that's your cup of tea. But I'm actually going to read a poem from my book, Pearl Diver, tonight. And it's called Summer So Full. Not the noble storm of sunlight, but the last doe-eyed days, the thing in itself, falcons coasting on updrafts, bougainvillea in bloom, and the dark high-res glimmering indigo. In this flash of indecision, the lips reach for the warmed body, and the neck turns toward shadow. The rattling in the leaves as your dress settles in your lap, and heavenly precious light breathes between the louvred trees. All eyes gaze upward, addressing the clouds and their cloud work. A music without sound drifts us into waking dreams, a magnetism stirring the head, and in the feet, sorrow, fiction, just days before the fall, before the golden swollen garden flickers out, before the moon rises clear out of your skull. So I'd say that's kind of a love poem, really. And I'm now delighted to introduce the first of our features today, the author of 6 full-length books of poetry, plus many, many collaborations, Leanne Brown, has poems in the current issue of Fence and the Hurricane Review. She's a singer, filmmaker, editor, publisher, host, curator, and educator based in New York City. Welcome, Leanne. Long time no see. Leanne's there, but I don't see her appearing. She's still on mute. Jeff, can you send her a quick text or something? Unmute. Unmute.
Oh, I'm sorry. So she had put in the text that she was kind of busy and she'd get right, you know, she was like settling in to move on. If we could just, let's put her later.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Okay.
So in that case, would you introduce Bob?
I'd be so happy to. Well, let me just say first that Bob's been a great friend to me for a really, really long time. And he's got such a wonderful style. Every time I hear him, it's like a clarion call. His books include Here I Am, Sub Press from 2024, Fifth Avenue Overhead from Edge Books 2024, Straight Around Allen, On the Business of Being Allen Ginsberg, Beat Them Books 2019. And I should just mention that all of this is really firsthand historic stuff from the time that Bob worked as Allen Ginsberg's secretary. He wrote also Cleaning Up New York, which was republished as a Little Book Room in 2016, republished from Little Book Room. His books of poetry include also Morning Poems, Lies About the Flesh, Rude Awakenings, Viburnum, and 11 Psalms. And his plays, co-written with Bob Holman, are The Cause of Gravity, The Horror of the Alpines, Bicentennial Suicide, and, God bless you, Bob, Clear the Range. Bob Rosenthal.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I'm going to read a little prose first but it's got a poet in it. Takes place in 1973. Ted Berrigan, that is making a trip to New York to do some readings. Rochelle and I plan to drive there, meet Ted, drive him home via Providence, Rhode Island, where he has stored stuff. Neil decides to drive east with us. I teach him how to handle a stick shift. We take some acid and go to Lincoln Park for lessons. I become Neil's guru of the clutch. Things start to flash while Neil is bucking into first gear. He gets the hang of it fast enough, and we skip back to Dayton Street. Naturally, I put on Hendrix. Neil, who loves to play blues guitar and never fully appreciated Jimmy before. We write some collaborations where when Neil leaves, he quickly returns, beckoning me to come down to the street. At Dayton and Armitage is a big red gleaming fire truck putting out a puny car fire. In red lights are revolving and flashing, creating throbbing, bleeding gauze in the air. They're seated atop the truck's cab is a beautiful, stately Dalmatian whose spots become portals to our dreams. In a few days, we leave for New York. The I-80 interstate is so new that there isn't even a radio station for much of it. Neil is able to shift the gears and drive is easy. We spend the night in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, arrive at the George Washington Bridge about noon the next day. The sun is bright on the Isle of Manhattan, which glistens before us like the lower jaw of a leviathan. Ted arranges for Rochelle and I to sleep on Dick and Carol Gallup's floor. We find the corner of East 4th Street and Avenue B, stagger out, feel a shower of eyeballs run over our foreign bodies. I'm shocked by what I see. Garbage overtops the cans. The sidewalks are covered with broken glass, and the block resembles my image of a battle scene. We get into the Gallup apartment and find comforting books everywhere, art on the walls. Carol makes coffee, tells us how to find the F train, and we walk back into the bright sun to visit the Marlborough Gallery to view a Larry Rivers show. New York is a place of extremes. The bums are worse off and the rich are more fabulous than Chicago's. People stare at one another with wide open appetite. The city holds a weird challenge that seems hardly possible. Ted reads at the St. Mark's Poetry Project. I marvel at the dark pews, dim lights, horrible sound system, the very lovely poetry reading. Ted also speaks at 98 Green Street Loft Series. He reads Train Ride for the first time and is charged to the charged audience of the poets listed in the poem. I noticed one fellow seems to be totally normal as he lies on the couch as a bevy of people circle him in conversation. This is Ted Greenwald. He runs the series. Ron Padgett invites us for tea. I make the wrong turn, drive to the Bowery, head up the west side, and wind up an hour late for tea. I make the excuse me, and finally get back to East 13th Street. We arrive at Ron and Pat's an hour late. We stay out late, come back to East 4th Street, gallery of vicious stares from beer-sodden denizens. Rochelle and I feel that we have managed a sudden weekend on East 4th Street, then a longer, if we can manage that, we can stay longer and would not be out of the question. No one we met says move to New York and be poets. No one wants us. We like that. Something to think about while we drive Ted back to Chicago. Ted arranges for us to pick us up at 7 a.m. at Kenward Elmsley's townhouse on Greenwich Avenue. We arrive and find him in a deep sleep on the 3rd floor. We verbally try to wake him. He stirs and opens an eye. He closes it again and tells us in highly slurred speech that he has been speeding all night and just popped a Quaalude an hour ago. Ted poignantly drawls, but I will get up. Wait, 6 hours, slow, small movements, long, delicate, shower, exposes himself to Rochelle, speechifies, breakfast with Kenward. Here's Eric Anderson and Dave Van Ronk's Songs for the Road. Early afternoon, we head out the Cross Bronx Expressway to Rhode Island. We all take Dexamils. We talk up the eastern seaboard. As we near Providence, Ted takes the wheel to guide us through the gathering dusk to his brother's house where his boxes are stored. He doesn't have the address. He just thinks he can find it. As he ponders what direction to go, his hand hovers above the gear shift, fingers slightly waggling towards the knob before contact is made and the gear is shifted. We are going around in endless circles. Rochelle keeps saying, let's call them and find out. But to no avail. Ted is on his turf and he will work it out. An hour later, we are still gliding around curved streets that double back to nowhere. A couple of times Ted stops and talks to somebody. Hey, Mac, where is such and such street? No one knows. Rochelle reads the entire ribald novel, Two Serious Characters by Katie Schneeman and Tessie Mitchell. And then when all is hopeless, lost, and over, we are there. Rochelle and I have coffee with Ted's sister-in-law as he rummages through his boxes in the basement. He's looking for Alice's notebooks and valuable works of art. He brings up a beautiful signed Warhol print, Flowers, that is folded in half. His sister-in-law apologizes. She needs to make space. Ted politely says it's of no import. I get the feeling that artwork looms large in his financial future. We find out how to get to Ted's youngest brother's house and visit him and his wife and new child. More coffee, and we head west in the middle of the night. Ted, take more pills. Ted takes the wheel. Shortly, the car zigs sharply to the right, zags sharply to the left. Then he brakes hard. He pulls off the road to a stop. I have just given myself the 3-point driver's test and flunked. Ted talks near me rather than to me. He's putting the whole part of his life into perspective. It's inspiring and abstract. I feel like my psychiatrist does, hearing my abstractions. I'm flattered to be in Ted's presence, but I'm too young, too naive to really retain what Ted talks. We stop for hamburgers at an all-night throughway oasis. Rochelle, ripped out of her skull, reads the giant plastic menu and starts exclaiming, "Oh, a grilled cheese on shit, a California shit burger, a malted shit shake." She continues to read her amended menu in a loud voice. Ted and I are pretending not to be falling off our stools laughing. When we leave, Rochelle walks off with the menu clutched firmly under her arm. In the pre-dawn light, we drive through Buffalo, New York, and look at houses where Ted had once lived and that were no doubt a part of his personal narrative. This very night, we look at the houses in which Ted had written in and shot speed in. I secretly sob for the gray wood frame houses, the blurry dead lake to the west. Ted points out the office of the greatest discovery in Buffalo, a doctor who writes scripts for Disoxin. It is a small, low building with a quiet evergreens in front. Back on the empty speedway out of town, two aging narcos pull up next to the red light. They ask us if we know where to score some grass. Ted leans out the window and asks these guys if they have any Valium. They speed off. A few more miles down the road, Ted makes a new proposal that we go to Niagara Falls. Rochelle says no. Ted reminds her, this may be the last time you get to see it, and it's just over there. He points abstractly into the drear landscape. Rochelle says, no, we are going home now. As at the next gas and pee stop, Ted and I are standing at adjacent stalls. Ted laughs. Boy, I really love Rochelle. She knows her mind. I love her saying no to Niagara Falls. Back on the internet, Rochelle and Ted fall into deep sleep. I feel lonely, except for it's all the speed I've been taking. I start to hallucinate drawbridges in the up position where there are none. I see sharp curves in the road, which stays straight. There are men standing on the side of the road, swinging their arms back and forth, preparing to jump in front of us. Of my ongoing wheels, I become adept at figuring out which sites are hallucinations and which are the real sites, and safely drive my sleeping cargo home to sweet home, Chicago. And I probably read my time, so I'll leave it at that.
Bob, that was amazing. That was so amazing. And your cadences are so infectious. But I have to say, man, you put my ass's story to shame. That was something else, man.
That was worth recording, yes.
All right, Mark.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Next, we hear from Wanda Phipps, who is a writer living in Brooklyn. Wanda's books include Mind Honey, Field of Wanting, Poems of Desire from Blazebox, and Wake Up Call, 66 Morning Poems from Soft Skull Press. Wanda's poetry has been published in many, many journals, translated into Ukrainian, Hungarian, Arabic, Galician, and Bangla. She's received awards from the New York Foundation for the Arts, the National Theatre Translation Fund, and many others. As a founding member of Yara Arts Group, she's collaborated on numerous theatrical productions presented in Ukraine, Kyrgyzstan, and Siberia, and La Mama, etc. in New York City. Wanda curated reading series at the Poetry Project at St. Mark's Church and has written about the arts for Boog City, Time Out New York, Paper Magazine, and many others. Welcome, Wanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to the organizers, and thank you to Jeff for inviting me. And I'm just going to read through my time from this chapbook, like an artist chapbook that the wonderful Susie X down in Florida with Red Mare Press, it's an eco-feminist press, did for me. This beautiful handmade book. And the first poem is a response to the Ukrainian poet Serhiy Zhadan, and I've been translating him with Forlana Koch for a really long time. And this was written, he wrote this before the war. It's called There's Nothing There Yet. Can you hear me okay, everybody? Yes? Okay. There's nothing there yet. I hear you call my name through the centuries. Time stops in the night, green with promise. The first thing appears as an object of admiration, an object of love, an object of glorification, an object of worship, an object of faith, a testament. The heavy vibration of empty space spreads and moves through the glass of the windows, through the walls, through closed doors, a vibration high and quick and strong. This is us on the corner of covert and joy. As a cool breeze blows towards Hallelujah Way, ice crystals, monarch's wings, high tide and a slow night, grass whistles. This is us passing Bliss Terrace on Diwali, the festival of lights, all the sweets of the world, cascading sunset after sunset. And next, I'll read excerpts from Write 3 Poems and Call Me in the Morning. 1. 3 little yellow lovelies in deep green leaves. Surprise, 2 birds fly off too quickly from the path to catch in a camera's eye. 1 big ship on the narrows, chilling wind by the water, clouds glowing around the edges. Home to the muse of materials, night of emotions and the hanged muse dangling from her high wire. I've bent, bowed in the heart bench, breathing into the back, the heart open to the sky. A smooth talker in the past dances with the romance of the present. I walk the opposite path from my instincts. I watch and the bird's eye turns. 2. Before I close my eyes, the dream starts. I remember the glamorous rolling sound of your accent, European, but from some unidentifiable country, an amalgam of foreign vowels and sultry consonants. Your voice purrs and stirs my imagination. I was sitting on a bar stool and you slithered up to join me, as smooth as silk and just as slippery, asking me to do you a favor. At some point, a feather boa was involved, and I balked. Not about the boa, but the favor. Something didn't feel right, sound right, but I was mesmerized anyway. You shifted the tone so quickly from camaraderie to seduction, I almost missed it. In the end, I said no to both, but a slight haze still lingered in my head as you left, and I heard your high heels hammering the tiles. 3. Will you dance with me on the edge of time? Is that a song? It should be. You say I think too much. I analyze stuff to within an inch of its life, but I would love to get that close, to see that close to an inch of any life. But the walls are so various and so strongly built. I am always miles away, observing from my magnifying telescope the microcosmic shifts in your smile. 4. Will you write about this? Even though you're happy and you say you only write when you're sad, will you write about this into a night when sleep escapes like a lonely whistling wind, when no one can see you or hear you, and there is a stillness deeper than deep, softer than soft, opening and closing like breath, a long, slow breath that releases everything into everything? Will I be there in your head, in your heart? Will anyone? Will the collective consciousness of all that has been and ever will be whisper to you? Will you feel it like a heart pounding, beating, a rhythm over and over again through the ages? Will you write about this? Will you write it well? Will I read it? 5. Rembrandt's eyes followed her from every edge of the room. Rembrandt's eyes watched her, spoke to her in a language she had forgotten. Her eyes were rimmed with coal, asking history to speak to her. Beyond the astronomical clocks, beyond the bronze statues of Hercules, beyond the progress of love that flooded off the edges of the Fragonards, through the shadowy rooms of Vermeer. Later, they talked around a table with periods of heavy silence, held over beer and bourbon, exchanging heartbeats. 6. I have food in the fridge. I have a roof over my head. I have money in my pocket and a brain struggling to focus, to land on a quality of light or shadow, to remember a huge golden supermoon, the worm moon of the equinox, sitting low in the sky, sign of transition, change, the feared unknown, contemplating the hanged muse, the card of contradictions. Spring comes in a grand illusion, a promise so sweet I can taste it. Next, this is an excerpt from, I did a pandemic diary, like most people did. But this particular one was also inspired by a poem by Serhii Zhadan, written before the war. Sunday, April 19th, 2020. Spring is here, but we can only see it from windows, behind glass. The tulips, the daffodils, the crocuses, the trees grown green cry to us bright and beautiful, while we cry inside, fear and anxiety, kissing brief joys like cherished children. Every morning, memories flood my mind. You were there, tall and smiling, with a question hanging in your eyes. The sound of your voice travels through distances, miles and years, years and miles, to rumble in my ears. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. I guess we'll do a couple more. Thursday, September 17th, 2020. Slow-mo melting images in my brain. Dali does a cartwheel. California's burning, orange skies, smoke wired through clouds? Do I hear fireworks in the middle of the night in New York, or shots fired again and again through cities across the nation? Divisions amplified, a march, a protest, a de-evolution, or a revolution. Kali, the destroyer, burning it all down to start again. How do we start again? Isolated by a virus, minds spiral inward, settling on peace, or spiral outward to meet the chaos. My hands shakes as I reach for you. Do I dare? This is called Natural Disaster. Not a raging fire, but a hurricane runs through my body, a rushing, swirling mass of energy, tying knots in my neck, shoulders, tingling in my legs and feet, a tension like a motor in my back. I try to throw a wrench in it, disable it, tame it, subvert or dislodge or dissipate it, to break the machine of memory. Thoughts backbending in my brain. Still, the broken pieces fall and fall, but never reach the ground. Okay. This is called A List on a Far Off Planet. Heading towards the end, what do I say? Towards the great conjunction, how do I say this? Saturn and Jupiter collide. Sometimes I can't believe an Aquarian wet dream, my foolishness, head aching, the easy way I slip, insides churning, tears come, a sad donut, as I count losses, tilting my head into caring, to read the rational spines into fear, saw that silver knife into guilt, in the box-shaped heart, worry. Saw her batting her eyelashes over the internet. What rules? If it's out of sync, the mind, then starts the body. Want to watch it? The hermit tattoo shop is closed. It is a soft Irish day, and the mind wants what the mind wants. What's hiding in the crevices, in the creases, in the shadowy places on civilization's fatted calf. Caress the silver duke, sparkles on the neck. Think to the marrow of the bones, sink to the place where thoughts are gone. Now I want the flaming lotus girls in all the 10,000 facets of music eclipse. Oh, I think I'll end with that.
All right, Wanda, how beautiful. Wow. New romantic afternoon interlude there with Metaphoria rules. Thank you, Wanda Phipps.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Let's hear from JT Kelly. JT is an innkeeper in Indianapolis. He lives in a brick house with his wife and their 6 children. His debut chapbook, Like Now, is out from Subpress/CCCP 2020. Isn't CCCP mean Russia or something, or what? 2023. I was happy to get the chapbook from Jordan Davis, and I think you'll like it. He also has poems. JT has poems in Bad Lilies, Poetry Online, One Art Elsewhere. All right, from the wedding, here he is, JT. Take it away.
Thanks. Can you hear me? Good, Jeffrey. Thanks for having me on. I enjoy the poetry I've heard. I'm going to begin with short and to the point. Gluten-free in late-stage capitalism. Get that bread away from me. The next ones are a bit longer. Conversion. It's what the coin must live for, that tumble toward the apogee, scattering light like an angel, eyes around, anxious for the descent. Another word for fortune is doom. That gambling is a sin never enters its mind, I'm sure. It never did mine back when every action I took was ordered to the destruction of human society. When the coin lands, its face is revealed to be dull. There is only government and labor, the smelter and the press. such difficult origins, and nothing to look forward to but to be passed around. I'm on the other side of things now, blessed be God, but I know what it feels like to be looked at, to arouse morbid and lascivious fears. It feels good. This one is maybe the most recent one of the ones I'm going to read, called Public Address. O numberless, O ordinal, O nameful, O genders unend, O pronoun, O factory settings, O there, O refuser to define the terms, O not composed of, O positionless, O lungs, O resonator, O breath, O mirror, O cardiopulmonary resuscitator, O near-death experience, O hidden, O originator, O I within me, O I apart from me, O hold togetherer, O disrespecter of philosophies, O gatherer, O scatterer, O planted memory, O field of study, O vintner, O prodigal, O promiscuous, O whose is the sea, O pursuer, O jealous, O liar in wait. The one we all talk about, the one we look like, the one who asks us to face death, the one we are afraid of, the one we are not afraid of enough, the one who is one, the one who lives, the one who sees in secret, the one who favors long hair, the one with a strong right arm, the one after whose heart, the one after whom my heart, the one whose wings. Who can tell you what to do? Who can light enough candles for your birthday cake? Who can be perfect as you are perfect? Who can love wine more than you do? Who can love blood more than you do? Who can love me more than you do? Who can beat you at the staring game? Who can beat you at the war game? Who has lost more children than you? Who else can get up early enough to walk Leviathan before the rest of the house is awake? The elephant in the room, the something in the water, the savoir-faire, the joie de vivre, the rub, the matter, the stuff that creeds are made on, the brass ring, the Alfa Romeo, the honey in the rock, the I in team, my deemer, my redeemer, my own. This next one is called Dean at his best. What can you tell anybody about it? He said, and I knew he meant trouble at home. Tell them what you have to say, I said. Nobody else is you. His knuckles were red. He waved his arms like an orangutan. Their ceilings were very low. I'll end with one called The Myth of Adam Smith. Cross the state line with the old knob and tube, but paperwork will not get you what you want. Not on Mondays, not on my watch. The lobby foot traffic articulates decisions in a manner I have been and aspire to be again. It's not the case that you simply put your hand to the plow. He moves across time zones, expectations, trends. He works in accounting. He works seasonally. To be still and to watch stone be still. To refuse to decide while under duress. Aspirational literature languishes on the bookshelves. Meanwhile, we have server farms in 6 continents. Freedom from the efficiencies of the market. Freedom from your definition of freedom. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time. It's so good to meet all of you and hear the wonderful poetry tonight. Thank you.
And we still have more. We still have more. We have Leanne Brown in the house, I think.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you see
Leanne,
me?
yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay.
So So Leanne Brown is the author of 6 full-length books of poetry, plus a ton of collaborations. She has poems in the current issue of Fence and the Hurricane Review. She's a singer, filmmaker, editor, publisher, host, curator, and educator based in New York City. Welcome, Leanne.
Hey, did you finish? Okay, sorry, I'm in a loud place. I'm at a concert. You might hear cat power in the background. I thought the concert was going to be at 9 o'clock, but it's now. So I'm going to try to read. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. A distinct interior each of us has. Don't miss out on the time spent there in the interior space, carrying us forward more quickly still, always a free spirit. Quick, come out and look at the fucking stars. The use of vertical space is a trade secret. The use of vertical space is a trade secret of our love. And when in doubt, just go up. The honeysuckle mountain ascends itself at last like the cold mountain twins, yet warm. Here we are in parallel space, listening on nuthatch array and a finch on the window as Raggedy Ann sleeps in my baby cradle, given me by my mom, who is excited to show me life and give me access to taunt reality on the string. We are storm couplets born up the mountain spiral swarm, guzzling up all the fairy juice served us over in Cashville, over on the rise. I got another poetry book in the mail, almost surrounded by knotweed. Our lush treehouse bear cave treasure might be soon a place for leisure. If only I can take my own advice and come round now to finish thrice. I'll be named Double Southern Leanne Brown and then form a coven. It's not heaven, but I need to heal myself first and hang this quote by Ilya Kaminsky over the desk about how we lived well during the war. A warning against complacent sleep. So grateful for this place, but know I must depart after I sleep deep dream to find a way to go back out down the mountain to the world to do my part, but not yet, not yet. That was written during the pandemic on a mountain. This is a very short one called Tend to the Moon. Tend to the moon, say a prayer for grounding and air moving, life flowing forward in a more balanced way. This is called Perseoid. Luminous fold, a layer of star, mountain, profile, tree, giant, profligate cicada, one light stella, point up, ledge her. Your voluntary love flows in on this summer's day, past apogee of July. We're firmly in a flower's eye, tending toward bloom, tending toward seed. Living in Owl Town as we are, going to the grocery or laundry becomes a parabolic event. With each other, we can be sad. All this will someday fall away. We grab hold of green today as we ride with each other side by side, hand on book, while looking the other way. Grab hands, become more alive even than we are. See the beings in back and to the side and underneath the rosy air. Sweet desserts of bibliomancy rain down, a love poem again. Weird scratching under a dark blue veil, a bear in the tree, bites down on chocolate, salt and spray. I'm gonna read one more Labor Day poem from long ago. J'ouvert means the opening of the day or daybreak, but I always felt the day come on gradually, and I'm rarely up to see it, not being a dawn freak till only recently, plus maybe when I was very small. The air conditioner has given up the ghost, as they say. I have grown a fine belly to lift after only one child, and I'm sweating already. Humidity 88%. 8 a.m. Monday, September 3rd. It's 77 degrees, but feels like I've been up for an hour or more. Ate oatmeal. It puts skin on your back like velvet, I hear Stephen's father say in my head. Walt from Wiltshire in his musical hall lilt. driving a double-decker bus through my one-time past. And then he whistles, I wish I were in Wiltshire where the something birds do something be. A further back ancestral memory of oatmeal is associated with black watch-clad book called Wee Gillis, who learned the bagpipe with bristly cheeks puffed out and round balloons. Uncle Hal also ate salt on his oats, not brown sugar and goat yogurt like me. I find my special copy of Midwinter Day and immediately wish I could write as high as thee, be the way you start so immediately, yet include the reader as you, even though it's obviously someone specific or several people, as in a dream. Right. I dreamed a multi-layered dream, but will have to start recounting in the middle and due to take a ride in the high country with Nick and Jerry. Blue sky and puffy clouds over land, a high mountain pass, alpine or Californian. Beth is to be driving. I try to arrange it on the phone, car on the sidewalk, at one point through a narrow, rooted way. In the meantime, I'm enthusiastically talking about New York City to a woman with a small child who's intimidated by the city. I'm showing her my green and blue paisley zippered suitcase filled with vintage clothing I have sorted and put away for later. I am giving the child one piece of clothing, but the mom thinks I'm giving her the whole suitcase, so I will. Oh, those dreams. That's it. Thank you.
Leanne Brown, that was so great. Love, love, love.
Thank you for having me.
Voluntary love.
All right.
Enjoy the concert, yeah? So we were graced tonight with the presences of Bob Rosenthal, Wanda Phipps, J.T. Kelly, and Leanne Brown. And now we hear from our technical guy, John Wessick, who is original editor of the San Diego Poetry Annual. He's published hundreds of poems and stories in journals such as the Atlanta Review, Berkeley Fiction Review, I-70 Review, New Verse News, Patterson Literary Review, and many more. His most recent books are The Shaman in the Library and The Prague Deception. John.
Thank you, Mark. This is called Chicken Noodle. After women in sweatpants take the winners home to cook them soup, Xena the pit bull drops a slobbery electrodynamics textbook at my feet. She's a good doggo. If the law allowed, I'd grant her durable power of attorney. I reach, she grabs it and races away. Chasing a career in a playful dog's jaws is harder than calculating a triangular transmission line's normal modes. Each time she stops, I lunge and she darts off. A vulture snatches the book from Xena. I give chase in a moving van, sweatpants and dog buddies all left behind for 1,000 equations with intermediate steps left as exercises for the student. The only soup I eat is the can I warm on the stove.
Who doesn't like to warm something on the stove? Thanks, John. And so, yeah, Cassandra.
Yeah.
Let's
That was fantastic. That was such a fantastic series of features. Thank you all for reading. And John, now I feel like chicken noodle soup for breakfast. Less of the slobbering dog, but more of the chicken noodle. All right, we have a stellar lineup. It's going to be the richest open mic we've seen in months. So we're going to kick off with Ronald, who was going to read last week, but we saved him up for this week because he's always got something fantastic. And I saw him just pop back in. So Ronald, are you around?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect.
I'm going to read a poem that I read 2 hours ago at the launch of Lips magazine, issue number 60. Lips, of course, is the magazine founded by the late, great Laura Boss. So this is called Sacred Heart School. A small town kindergarten through 8th grade, site of my earliest intellectual triumphs, site of my fears, shame, and hatred. When Mrs. Miggott stood Jimmy Toscano in front of the 5th grade class and forced all the boys to punch him in the gut under threat of the same to us. where Sister Kevin smashed a metal lunchbox into my skull for laughing hysterically at spilt milk. We just learned no use crying over spilt milk. Where Lenny Kavaskis scared the hell out of me by snitching that if sent to the principal's office, they strapped you to a machine that stuck needles in your eye. When my face turned beet red around the girls, where I pined and lusted for Mary Abate and Debbie Delafay, where Sister Margaret Mary Alico slapped three boys' faces hard and pointed to the classroom door saying, "Never darken my classroom again," for the horrendous crime of sneaking out at lunchtime to a pizzeria. Then she pulled me aside to plead, "Dearie, please don't fall to the side of the road with the bad seed," not realizing my roots were already planted deep. Where the youngest and prettiest nun heard a report of me telling a dirty joke and terrified me by warning, "Bremner, your day will come." Where the nicest old nun always called me Robert, not my own name. Where the Italian majority of students who have become parents and grandparents now, in 40 years, with children schooling elsewhere, in 40 years has turned Korean and Turkish, providing the money for SHS to prosper. Where the nuns' convent, which horrified us kiddies with myths of horrible tortures, now has turned into offices with no nuns, no vacations, all lay staff. Now the entrance steps where I spit on, now the entrance steps I spit on in my last year and the reunion that I'd rather choke than attend are just memories. But still, I wonder if that hell still eats its young. Thank you, and I want to announce that I'm the featured, or one of the featured poets at the Brownstone Poets reading on June 29th at 2 p.m. New York time. You're all welcome, and I'll put the link in the chat. Thanks.
Thank you so much. You're doing amazing things. And Brownstone Poets are one of our huge friends. So that's wonderful to hear your reading. I love that people put in the chat, Bremner, your day has come. My favorite bit was sneaking out at lunchtime to the pizzeria. So some really wonderful moments in there. I used to sneak out to get gelati, but that's not as exciting, I don't think, as pizza. We now have DeWitt, who's bungeeing in from his chair. He's had an amazing review. Now that he's read it and very happy, he's going to share something with us, I'm sure.
This is an excerpt from a long poem, not too long, I hope. Each MLK Day, Watertown celebrates diversity with a breakfast for 400 attend. It strikes me as our town's best spirit forward. Worst, by contrast, was intimidation by a teen gang and its leader on the block where Plowshares, the literary magazine that I had co-founded, moved in 1977 from our apartment into a rundown storefront in a block that included a laundromat, an Irish bar, a pizzeria, a karate studio, then us, a newspaper distribution drop, a general market, and an auto supply store. Each store had plate glass windows where the morning sun bleached wares. Ours had a front room like a fishbowl and one long room behind it, which was blocked from street view. I never knew the gang leader's name. He lived around the corner in a trailer-sized 2-bedroom owned by his mother, who lived with a fireman. He sat with buddies across the street on the gas station's curb and threw rotten apples that splattered on our window. He shouted at my coming and going, "Hey, hey, library fairy." I didn't want to engage. I worried we'd get a brick through the uninsured window. Our screen door did get slashed, and his bottom plate kicked in. Husband, father, writer, editor, teacher, here I was founding a literary magazine on a shoestring, grants and volunteerism. By day, I lugged in bags of mail from a P.O. box in Cambridge, or crammed my car with canvas mail bags sorted for nonprofit mailing. 3 times each year, an 18-wheeler managed to back in behind the storefronts and wheeze to a stop, would unload a skid of 20-some 100-pound boxes and trip after trip carry them inside. To these neighborhood kids, their parents, and to the guys in the bar, our business made no sense. We had a stream of volunteers and interns, mostly college women. My first managing editor, Joyce Pesseroff, drove from Arlington for 3 days each week. Readers for fiction and poetry signed out submissions and returned keepers, and signed out more. Ray Carver, Jane Ann Phillips, Seamus Heaney were among guest editors who stopped by for manuscripts and stayed for lunch. Many nights I had the office to myself and worked on my novel, read, or graded papers. I hung blackout blankets at the entrance so no light showed. I heard voices. Anybody in there? Nah. Kids like to loiter under the overhang, to smoke, finish a slice, drink beer, or shelter from weather. Plowshares? Fuck is it? Dunno. Library magazine. I heard the splatter sound. One night, Pizza Roma was set on fire. Kids had broken in Paul's back door, made hamburgers, and left his grill on. In our storefront, smoke stained every surface. Picked up a manuscript in its exact shape, remained like a shadow. Eventually, the gang leader got his license, joined the Navy, perhaps. In any case, he disappeared. We became a fixture for 15 years, financed by grants, fundraisers, and by Emerson College, where I taught full-time and chaired the writing department. We turned our fishbowl into a borrowing library. Computers and a dot matrix printer replaced typewriters, filing cabinets, and files of 3x5 cards. Our first calculator simplified bookkeeping. The college stored admissions brochures in our basement. The karate studio was replaced by a caterer. Still later, having moved to campus and formalized the Emerson affiliation, we kept the storefront for storage, at least until 55 back issues had been digitalized, making it pointless to store more than a few cartons. By then, Don Lee, my tech-savvy former MFA student, while serving as managing and associate fiction editor, joined me in the melancholy task of carrying 55 cartons of pristine, unsold back issues up the basement stairs and dumping them in the back of a trash removal truck.
I love that. The birth of plowshares right in front of our eyes with a side of pizza, because I think that's the other theme. And your accent for what is it was the best. You need to do more accents. It's my favorite. Thank you so much, DeWitt. It would not be an open mic without your genius here for us. Barbara, you are next. Very excited to hear a poem from you. So if you can unmute and read us a poem, that would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to read today in commemoration of my man of 50 years, Bill Creston, who filmmaker, artist, whose funeral was June 3rd, just happened. I do have a small bit it's based on him in my book Sensations from '86, but what I'm feeling lately, even though Bill died in hospice this month, and my mother had died in a more technologically hospitalized situation, I had written a poem for her that was published in the magazine called Feelings. Ron Cohn was published in that magazine too. I don't think anyone else that survived has been. This was my mother. So, okay, it's called Mother's Death. As evening socks in and the children begin to raise objections to a bedtime not even yet assigned, my thoughts are interrupted, and I realize I am thinking once again of Mother's death last summer at the crest, when every tree was still yet lush and every fruit and nut about to drop, and the dog barking and barking and barking at the lightning bugs at night. And in the day, tubes in her lungs and her arms, and out of her urethra, measuring droplets of urine in special containers, her hands tied by gauze to the railings of the bed, her heart and her brain registering ever less regular patterns on the overhead video monitor, IVs flushing to effect a change, no diagnosis even, until finally the fluids in the buckets flushed, became pinker, and then red. But even so, the autopsy was non-revealing.
Wow, thank you so
Bless
much for
you all.
sharing that. Yeah, it's a very, very moving poem, and I'm so sorry to hear about your partner. But the dog barking at the lightning bugs was so gorgeous. And then we have all the objection of hospitals and hospices. So thank you so much. It was a great poem. Really appreciate you reading it.
Thank you. And in a way, it's a bid for hospice rather than till the last moment.
Yep.
Bill was 92, though. So
Yeah,
can make other decisions.
always hard though. Doesn't matter how old they are. It's always hard.
Yeah.
Olivia, we have you up next. What have you got for us?
Oh, thank you. I'm going to read a poem I just wrote earlier this month. It's called Dusk Musing. Summer dusk is like midlife, cooled from any torrid affairs. Still sunlight, but no longer glaring. No sweaty stickiness to stop silky shirt from flowing with the contour. Still capable of all the dance moves, but undulates with less showy extension for attention, more subtle grace for soul trance. Turns off all devices with ease to relax into stillness, invoking softer, more authentic vibes, as if slow music to be savored not only for its sound, but also its silence. Sunset is sunrise somewhere else. Dusk is dawn somewhere else. Going inward is reaching outward. Thank you.
Thank you for that gorgeous metaphorical poem. And I think of all people here, I'm aware that sunset is sunrise somewhere else because it's still early here. And there is the sun rising over my shoulder as it sets for all of you. What a great poem. Thank you so much, Olivia. Really fantastic piece.
Thank you.
And now we have Vicky. Vicky, what have you got for us? It's been such a treasure trove in the open mic.
Hi there. Thanks so much for letting me read. I've got a short prose poem, which is one of a series of 5 sea shanties. And this is sea shanty number 5. Renee is dying. She knows it and welcomes it. After 4,000 years, why not? plans everything and takes her motorboat far out into the nothingness of the sea, looking for the cold embrace of the kraken. In the distance, the orcas and the humpbacks sing to her, and she calls out to them. Where is the kraken? Where is he? Hearing their music, she plays patience to kill time.
Wow, thank you so much. That was not what I was expecting at all, because TikTok has strange men singing sea shanties that are quite upbeat. So I really loved that. It was very poignant. I love that idea of the image on the water, and the sadness of the impending moment. Thank you so much, Vicky. That was fantastic. You can always come and read us a sea shanty for sure.
Thank you.
We're going to finish the open mic with our dynamic duo, as I often call them. My sister Cindy from Brooklyn, who's going to read something. I don't know. She surprises me each week. It's a bit hard to pin her down, so I'm not going to try this week. What do you got, Cin?
Well, you know, I'm wearing my flag shirt because yesterday was Flag Day here. And I want
What is Flag Day for an Australian? What does that mean?
It was Flag Day here in America. I don't know. Should I be wearing the Australian flag?
No, I just meant we don't have Flag Day. What does it commemorate? Well, people just
Australia.
David's got his up as well.
You know, there are some terrible people who happen to be on the Supreme Court who were putting the flag upside down. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm sure you heard about it. And I'm wearing my shirt right side up to give the middle finger to Justice Alito.
What, Cindy, wait, is it Flash Day you said? Here, show us that shirt again. Wait, let's see. Come on. Right, Cindy.
Shut up, Jeff.
She's got a pretty good figure. Like, we don't get to see
Get your mind out of the gutter. Anyway, that was just my intro, because that's not the poem. The poem that I want to read, tomorrow is Father's Day. My father died under tragic circumstances when I was 19, and I've written several poems for him. He was an attorney, as you'll hear, and I wrote a little poem for him. I'd like to read it. It's called My Father in a Nutshell. My father loved weak tea, burnt toast, strawberries and cream, cherry tomatoes, delivering his eloquent closing arguments to the jury, tanning his face in the sun on the corner, and justice. And he would be appalled about what's going on in America today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cin, you write beautifully about your mother and your father, so that was very special. I love burnt toast as well. Is that bad? I'm sure it's carcinogenic.
Yeah, I like burnt toast also.
Absolutely. Now we're going to close the open the only way we know how to close it. And that is with Bob, who is going to give us something extraordinary from his kitchen. The kitchen laureate is with us today. He's wearing a community garden t-shirt rather than the flag. Bob, you might have to get your flag out wherever you are. But I love hearing what he's got to say, because as I said, it's morning here. I'm going to think about it all day. No pressure, Bob. What do you got for us?
Okay, this is a short one that's about a week old. Sometimes the war approaches and the flowers stop growing and the bears stop singing. And where the river should be, there are only arrows we are supposed to follow, as if there was some place to go.
You still got it, Bob. If it's a new one, it's a brilliant one. We love it. And it's got a bear as well. So it's going to tick all the boxes for us. So thank you so much. That's the best way to close the open. And back to Mark and Jeff.
Well, thanks guys for that open mic. It was fantastic. And kind of leaning on to Bob's last poem, I'm going to read this poem called Forlorn Until Noon, which is also in Pearl Diver of Iramani. And well, you'll see what it means to say. And in the book, there's another poem that flows through the book, that is kind of in conversation with the main poems, but it's its own poem as well. So I'm going to read that as the last line. Forlorn until noon. Briefly sad, the grasses drooping, staring at their roots, bowed under the current, as if in wishing to say what they would have liked to. The tears have gathered at the tips of their questioning heads. This is forever, the tuna chasing minnows. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful show today. And our next show, by the way, is, I believe it's July, right? It is actually,
Yeah, I think
July 20 with Pablo Medina, Sarah Stickney, Katie Peterson, and Jeffrey Renard Allen. So please join us for that. We are going to go into a little skydiving, bungee jumping, things like that in the interim. But thanks. And see you in July. Beautiful show. Wishing everybody a wonderful weekend. Lots of love and poetry. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Lovely stuff, Wanda, everybody.